Makes sense? Okay. Okay, just maybe something very important. In the last couple of days, now kind of sat in class. So let's take it from the weekend and up to today. How many ads did you see that you can remember? Tell us, what was the product? Who's the provider? What was the deal? Where did you see it? Anything.
Well, you are obviously also talking about the radio as well.
Everything is. Yes.
Well, obviously driving to work, you're hearing ads continuously.
Okay, like what?
Well, you only remember the real stupid ads anyway. You've got this Nedbank ad that drives me up the wall, but you obviously... Eugene!
But it seems very effective.
Yeah, but I mean, that's how they did it. And then you've got that Wimpy ad as well, that's also just as bad.
That's a bad one.
But you see, they do it on purpose because it irritates you that you remember it.
Yeah, because I mean, negative retention is something that can't be proven. You know, the idea of it irritates me, therefore I'm not going to buy it.
You had that other one?
That's not true. Yeah.
The F&B one as well, they had it going on for a while.
Steve!
Yeah.
Yes. You know, I must tell you that these things, the irritating ones seem to be very effective, isn't it? No. But yeah, we remember them. But it's often annoying things that you remember. Okay, what else do you remember?
But I don't think it's not going to make me go to Nedbank.
No.
Not at all.
Not at all. But it also will not cause you to boycott them. There's a different reason of why you won't go to Nedbank. Why are you not going to Nedbank?
Scrap service.
Yes. So the ad kind of cannot make up for the problems.
That's an assumption, so they've got crap service.
No, but obviously
it doesn't matter.
I base that on my experience.
But that's very important what you're saying. It's very important what you're saying. Even if you decide that they've got such bad service that I don't want to be there, are you going to consider them? Do you have personal information about that, a personal experience around Nedbank's bad service?
Yeah.
When?
Years ago. Look, it could have changed by now.
Okay, yes, but you don't care.
It still left a mark, you know. So.
Yes. So it is a perception that we are working with in. But in marketing, perception is reality. We do not distinguish between what is true and what is perception. Because what is true at the end? True is your experience of the world. Is even if I now say, oh, but they changed a lot. Are you then going to run out and check them out? No. It causes barriers in our thinking around certain brands where we just don't want to be part of them. And so it is important to understand that we are working with perception and we believe perception. Because there's not anything else. It's almost like saying that you and your partner has some fight in. Say that with you, I mean, you the ideal example, having lasted for 30 years.
I'm never sure it'll last the next week.
Now, if you say to your partner when you're having a fight that it's just her perception that she's right, would that go off well? No, that's, for example, one of those. Then the week might become 3 days, and you're unsure of how the future looks. But we are so sure that we're right. As human beings, we believe ourselves. But those are called, we believe our perceptions. Do you ever have full information on anything?
Yeah, these days that's a question you ask yourself.
If you?
There's so much underlying information sitting that if you just look on the surface, you don't really see it all.
You don't.
And
yeah.
You start asking yourself the question, do you really have all the information?
Yes, which is a good question to start asking at some point in time. No, I think we call it maturity. And a friend of mine always used to say that if people have a fight, they must just both try to be more than 7 years old simultaneously. Because then you can kind of solve it. It's because we've got varying age as well when we go into fights that we don't really get through that. But perception is fact for us in marketing. We handle it as if it's fact so that you can deal with it. Because what we often see in businesses, especially when people have a high level understanding of technical things that they're dealing with, they can very quickly say, oh, but the customer's just wrong. Well, they're still not buying. So it is, if they're not buying, that we have to say, okay, I hear what you are saying. Let's see how we're going to handle that. So let's just get back to our example of how many ads have you seen. So you at least remember the irritating ones on radio. And what ads did you see? Any ads? Hear, see?
I've got these Groupon emails come through.
The Groupon ones, yes. Yes. So a friend of mine is a master at using those. I've just never had the inclination to go through that to look for the good deals. And
yeah, basically they send you a list of 6 deals. And
yeah.
you just have a quick look and see if you
actually had such nice deals on that.
Yes.
And yeah. Yeah, it is actually quite good. Yeah.
Yes, so they're very cheap. They're normally between 40 and 60%
Yeah, but
off.
you've got to
Yes.
be very careful, because let me tell you something. When you go onto the website and you see what the picture's not what, where you, especially if it's accommodation.
Yes, yes.
So-
You have to
Oh my word, she
you have
just
to-
booked a
You've gotta
holiday.
do-
You have to read the fine print as well.
Yeah, and I think you
It
have
was
to check
super.
upon the establishment you go into.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you still have to do a little bit of your own research as well. Like I said, there we've got Groupon. What else? What ads have you seen? And not just any form.
Let's go with the billboards for elections.
Oh, the elections, yes. Yes, yeah. Yeah, those are believable. Yeah. So, but what I'd like you to notice is that how few you can remember. You do understand that you see lots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the average customer staying in Joburg, Pretoria area, type of area in South Africa, sees something like on a messaging level between 3,000 and 3,500 messages a day. You can remember Groupon and a really bad wimpy Netbank and F&B ad. and that is our problem in marketing, is how do we get people to remember what we are telling them? People are inundated with information all of the time. So if we can't integrate information differently into people's lives, we actually cannot get people to remember things. I give you the other day, students of mine in a different program did a presentation, and I thought it was so funny. So excuse the example, but I think it is just so well done. But it's this whole ad that they started off by saying that, okay, when you look at the concept of safe sex, it is very problematic because men are not afraid of sexually transmitted diseases. And you think, what? Yes, but men are afraid of babies. So then there's an app that you can say that I can download that app to my partner's phone, and then the phone is impregnated and a baby is born on this phone. And this baby starts crying, and the baby needs to be fed, and the baby needs to be cared for. And remember those Tamagotchi, stupid little electronic animals? The same concept, but now it's on the person's phone. And so then it shows people the experience of having a baby that you did not want. And then how do you get rid of the baby? You scan a Durex barcode. Don't you think that that is quite brilliant? You scan a pack of condom code and your baby's gone. So think about that advertising and how much more real it makes it for people on that side. But it was so funny, because then the students sat in the class and everybody's phone got impregnated with this little baby crying, and then you think like, oh my word. But that's what companies have to do, is to look at it very creatively and say, how do I bring my message across to people regardless of what I have to do with it? And then it's a combination of traditional media that they are using and the apps and all that can be written to create a customer experience that's memorable, but more than that, that's viral. Everybody tells everybody about it. Did you see this ad? You don't forget that. You go and check it out. You see how it works. And so then you get a level of customer engagement in. Now, do you think if somebody saw a campaign like that, they're going to forget it? The retention rate is very high, very high, and the amount of questions that we get around that. So it is looking at things differently. I would like to show you a couple of normal ads and how companies are reverting to different type of strategies just to get people to remember things. And then slowly we'll start going fully to the digital side of it. Do you think people remember that ad?
Yeah, well,
Yes.
I also think that seeing as it's a British ad, they will get a number of complaints to Ofcom and it will be taken off the air within a couple of days.
Okay, and then what's going to happen to it?
It will go viral.
Yes.
Probably didn't even reach TV.
Well, the full campaign ran. And there's a lot of them, things that go wrong for little birdies that go and sit on the bonnet and all of it. You can see all of the entire campaign on YouTube. In the Evil Twins campaign of Ford car. What they wanted to do is they wanted to position the car as with more female characteristics, to have more aggressive male characteristics. This was the ad that they used for that. Do you think, okay, whom of you think it's a good ad? Okay.
I don't think anybody will ever buy that car. I don't know anybody who will buy that car after seeing the cat's head chopped.
Their sales increased.
No, I think a lot of people.
Their sales increased. Unfortunately, their sales increased.
Yeah,
in the right market.
It would appeal to that sense of humor.
I don't mind.
No, you're not the market for a sport car, so we don't really give it.
But that's important, eh? We can't look at ads through our own eyes.
How many of those cars all have summits?
Yes, that's the evil part. I wonder why. No? But the ad has got this love-hate reaction in it. It causes people to talk about that. Many people think it's the most disgusting ad that they've seen in their lives. The SPCA was up in arms about that, you can imagine. There's blogs up against it that said that it's animal cruelty, or it looks like animal cruelty. They wanted to force them to put a sentence in that says no animals were harmed in the making of this ad. They refused. So there was many things that happened around the ad. And it did go viral, and it did start running blogs, very negative ones in that, and it did have a sales increase in the right market. What we don't know, however, is if at this point in time still, if Ford car has reputational damage in the broader market. We know that they accomplished what they wanted in, but what about now their previous market on that? Maybe people that used to see that say, I'll never in my life, I don't want that car. It's just horrible to kitties, so it's not going to do that. Yeah.
Besides, so that's just one naked model.
Yes.
What about all the other cars with sunroofs?
Yes, and it takes time to also know. It's not as if people buy a car tomorrow, next week, because of an ad. You've got a long period of time, in 5 years, that you can have an effect from a certain type of campaign. Very difficult to isolate the effect behind that. But can you see how people are trying to break through this clutter? This idea that we see ads, but we forget them immediately in terms of it. So when you say the irritating ones, that's exactly what we are seeing, is where people are putting out more shocking things or more odd things in there in order for people to react. You're one that you will be very familiar with.
I know, I'm so spoiled. It is you. Hang on a sec. Excuse me. Hi. Where's my chips? They're on your plate. No, they're not. Here they are.
The bigger, fuller, bouncier, double-breasted burger from Nando's.
A double-breasted burger from Nando's. Okay. So Nando's famous for doing that, and we know that. And you take the background of how they did it. The idea is when they went up with their advertising initially, and they came up against the Chicken Lickens and KFCs and those type of players. They don't have the advertising budget to run things on TV. It's too expensive for them to do. So what they do is they created this Irreverent brand, but the Irreverent brand that is aimed to a middle to upper class market. So a lot of your more conservative people fall with outside of their actual target audience, which helps if you do an ad like that. Otherwise you can have quite a lot of problems around it. And then the ads are launched on a Friday evening, and they are banned by Monday morning. And they need 2 days on air, and then it goes viral. And that is the strategy. And that is the only way that they can keep their advertising cost low, but still get people to remember the ads. I mean, the ads fit the context of the country very, very well as well. If you take that specific ad, it is just so South African that it's embarrassing in the detail of the ad. But they've been very, very good at using their type of strategy of how do you use a traditional media in order to trigger a viral campaign that will run from there on. If you go on YouTube and you go and search Nando's ads, you'll see many that never ran. That's just too off to run, even. That is shocking. And so have a look at them. It is very, very, very well done, if that's the type of approach that you appreciate. So it is. That type of advertising is also not just used in the commercial markets. We're seeing it even in the social markets. Have a look at this one. Yes. So, oh, okay, did I see that correctly? Yes. Yeah. So the idea is to create this emotional reaction in people and then to work with it from there on. But you are obviously always playing borderline games with brand damage and things that can happen. And sometimes when companies look at this, is oh, that's the way to go, and it's obviously not necessarily the way to go. And you do have to decide and be comfortable with the risks that you are running when you are doing something like that. It does not come without any risk, but it does come with much higher retention in. So that is what has happened in the traditional advertising space, is where they've pushed the boundaries a lot more to get people to remember the advertising. Given the Durex baby campaign and that, is that idea of saying that how do we make things a part of people's lives? How do we get consumers to start participating in our campaigns? How do we get people to pass on information? I mean, what do they say? The concept of word of mouth. We said now it's now word of mouse, because you pass it on the internet, through email, through Facebook pages, through Twitter and that. So that is what counts, and to see if we can get our customers to inform other people about what we are doing at this point in time. Remember, as soon as the advertising or marketing is not directly related to me, the credibility increases. Because if I talk about my company, obviously I'm saying the nice things in that. So how do I maybe create blogs where people want to be part of those blogs, and there's a high level of expertise on these blogs, and that is associated to your brand. And it says, oh, did you see the people participating on Altech's blog on that? That's really great. So it's looking at it very, very differently and asking ourselves, how do we create exchanges where we get a higher level of involvement from the customers that we are dealing with? Now, in the digital marketing field, there's also the idea of pull and push, and we're going to go through some examples to demonstrate that clearly in about 2 slides. So pull digital marketing is the idea where the customer actively seeks information. So they go on your website, they read your blogs, they send you mail and that. So it's driven from the customer side. It's how they request it. But then you also get the push side of it, where marketers send message without the recipient actively seeking that information. There's often a lot of issues coming these days around that, around privacy issues and so that you said, but what gives you the right to send something to my phone, for example? Are you okay with the idea that you get those messages that says, do you want to buy a mattress at this discount at this place? If you don't want, reply stop. Who pays for that stop message?
You do.
The consumer does, no? The consumer does at this point in time. They are going to change that, where if you don't pick up the bill for it, then you cannot, because how can you send me something that I did not ask for? So the concept of permission marketing is becoming quite big. Even now with the elections, getting the political parties' messages in of how the polls were running. So that was quite fascinating to see how even them have now kind of started abusing our telephone numbers to see how much information they can push towards you. So it is not necessarily something that's permitted by the customer. If your content is good and if people want to see it, obviously, yes, you can have a lot of success by that, and all people don't mind. It is not, it's a very specific case of where we have to say what do people mind and what do people not mind, but we do have to obviously have a level of respect to see what I can give people to. Have you seen these days, if you sometimes now subscribe on websites, that they will ask you, how often do you want to hear from us? Once a week, once a month, every day, and you can tick different things. Or when you unsubscribe, they'll bring up a page that says, why are you unsubscribing? Did we spam you? And were they trying to get that information to see, okay, what would be the right balance of information to send to people? He mentioned when he said Groupon, he says, yes, but they just send 6 deals. You know? So if I send you 100, and then sometimes it's so overpowering that you just delete in terms of. So how do we combine these things to now have permission from the customer while we are adding content that we want to add as well? So maybe the customer gives me information for this content, I can have a sidebar. So I can combine the two of push and pull. So I am allowed to contact the customer on the sidebar. There's things the customer did not ask for, but things that I think is important for the customer to know at a given point in time. What is wonderful about this type of marketing is as soon as the person clicks on that link, I know it. Where when you are doing all of your radio ads and your TV ads and all of that, when people are going off to make tea every time there's ads, you don't know it. And we don't know the level of attention that people actually give to the advertisements that we have. On the web, you know how long a person stays to a page, how many clicks they have on a page, their movements on that, and that actually tells us a lot about the success of the campaigns that we are running. So it's easier to look at. We are seeing a lot more segmentation where people are saying that I have to find the right customer and fine-tune how I'm going to deal with a different customer and not have something for everyone. And what has become big over the last years is the concept of influencer marketing. To say in any industry there are some people driving the opinion. And if I can get the influencers to uptake the information, then the information spreads better from there on. I mean, it's even something like, say that I'm developing a new tech product, and I'm still in the testing phases of that, but I contact somebody, people that are very well known for really great blogs in that specific product area, and I provide the product or the testing of the product to them for free. Now, obviously, it's a chance that you take. That person might go on the net and say, this is really bad. It's coming to you next month in that. Don't buy it at all. But, you know, you can also be careful on how you position these things. And people that's interested in technology, that are often quite open to test things that are still in incomplete phases and contribute to the final development stages of it. So in that case, we create these ecosystems or communities of people that start working together with us of adding more value. So here your marketing process then starts gelling with your product development process, even in that, where it's not just about the final sell, but it's about creating the system of where information is going out, and I am getting information back in as well. So it's not just one-way communication that is happening. Okay. I'd like to show you a couple of the campaigns around that shows you this idea of digital campaigns should be working at every step of the customer's purchasing journey for the primary purchaser in that, but also the influencer and any other stakeholders, and in partnership and integrated with other marketing campaigns. So it's not isolated things. It's really looking at all the possible tools I can use and influencing the entire process. Now, marketing has over years come under a lot of fire for a lack of return on investment or let's put it this way, difficulty to prove the return on investment. Can I really say that I spent X amount of rand and therefore I made X amount of rand? We just mentioned to say, even if you have a car ad, the person might buy the car 5 years from now, but the influence already happened today. It depends on how these things pan out. So it's very difficult to say that this money caused that purchases. Now, if we start looking at marketing more as a communication mechanism where people link into all parts of the business, and through the net and through digital media, it is less expensive for us to contact people if it is well planned. Then you start optimizing your return on investment. And in digital, you can far better trace it than in any other form of it. Give you an example of how these type of platforms are used for many different things. Think about, do you know the company, they're not that big in South Africa with our warm weather and all, but Burberry, they make those beautiful, very expensive coats. So they fall into a luxury category and they got this Burberry check, and they're very well known for that. Now, what happened over the last, say, 20 years is the average age of wealth decreased. So people used to be wealthy, say at the age of 45. The average age of wealth can go now as low as to 30. Now, if you are selling a luxury clothing item and your target audience have now not 45 anymore, they're now 30 years old, can you have the same models, the same styles of clothes, the same layouts in your shop, the same people working in your shop? All of that needed to change. So they started by, you'll see that the coats are now far more tight fitting. You get really short ones and that. It's still very, very luxurious and that, and it will never be like, let's say, popular fashion. It would always be more classic in terms of it, but it is still the Burberry style. And so they put younger people in the shops. They obviously just also now have the very young models that is wearing the coats on all the pictures. So the photography changed quite a lot around that. And then what they did is they started running, like, it looks like a Facebook page in that they communicate with the store employees. And with the chief execs will do little videos that you just do on webcam. You don't have to have like a fancy video team that does something, but just you sit in front of your computer, you record it, you post it on Facebook, and then you can see which stores are listening to your messages that you are sending. How are people reacting? How stores give ideas of how they handle certain things. People asking questions about the new product ranges coming out, and they use that as an internal marketing where you go into the digital platforms, but you manage your employees on that and see how you can get information and more interaction from there. Because if we can get that, imagine how that can positively influence the customer. If our employees have better marketing information at their disposal, suddenly they get photographs of everything. You don't have to worry how they got it. You don't have to worry if they opened their email. So there's one thing that is problematic for us is that people don't read. You say to somebody, I did send you an email. Yes, you did. It's not enough. It has to be more. It has to be closer. We see even our customer relationship management software, where it used to be like a whole system thing like SAP or something that you go and after a whole day of sales, you have to sit down and complete this system with all of the customer information and all of the orders and that. Where these days it runs as an app on your phone to say, okay, at 10 o'clock you have to be at this client. Before you get to that client, it starts prompting you with little questions to say, remember to tell the client about that new range coming out. We see that one of the invoices are still outstanding. So it populates automatic all the important information of that client. So you're sitting in a reception waiting for the client, and suddenly you see, okay, this is the 10 most important things that I need to discuss with this client. When I leave, the phone knows that I'm leaving. And so then it says, okay, the meeting is finished, so it knows how long you were with that person, and that now becomes management information. And then, were you able to ask these questions? What was the answer? And by the time I get to my car, I can, in short, but have answered most of those things. I have the order out, it goes in. So, and then it's how can I start using that type of management information to better handle my customers, to get my sales, and therefore understand how my marketing process is supposed to be using in that. Based on the questions that customer asked in that session, I can send them emails on product information that can literally go automatically to say, yes, the person was interested in that. It immediately releases an email that sends it to that person. Can you see how beautifully integrated the entire story becomes if we start seeing it different? So I'm showing you a lot of weird and wonderful examples, but the idea is to look at the integration and to say, how do we put it together of where the entire organization becomes marketing oriented in. And it's not just about a marketing division or an agency that's creating it. Maybe just in terms of when they say it should be part of the entire purchase journey. A purchase journey starts off where somebody has no interest in your product. They might not know about you, but they may also just not be interested. Up to where they have a casual interest, more intensive research is being done, and then obviously their access to information becomes crucial. A look at their approval process and endorsement, the final deal, we're going over to customer services. That is part of your acquisition campaign. Here of your retention campaign starts off. Making sure that you have separate spaces for those that they have the amount of attention that is needed. Companies either are too much busy with the acquisition side and forget about the retention, or they work on the retention and they don't get in enough new customers. Often the balances of those things can be quite out. We'll have a look at your situation just now. This is some campaigns that ran. It was in the last advertising awards, the Lurie Awards. It is the winners of the categories. And what it shows is how they create customer engagement through marketing campaigns and get serious customer involvement in. Very different levels and very different products. So have a look at what they did. Now, sometimes I think that the power of these things, I'm still not always getting fully. But look at how people are willing to engage. And then you can ask yourself, in which one of the three would you have engaged?
South Africans love Volkswagens. Since 1951, they've been one of the most loved and popular cars in the country. In fact, you'll probably find one on every street, road, highway, and byway. But how can we actually show people that thanks to German engineering, many of these cars are still on our roads today? Luckily for us, someone had gone to the trouble of photographing just about every single Volkswagen on the streets of South Africa. Google Street View. All the Volkswagens were there, the new ones, the old ones, the crazy ones. The hard part was finding them all. So we launched an online game using Google Street View technology and combined it with the sociability of Facebook. We called it Volkswagen Street Quest. We challenged Volkswagen Facebook fans to find and pin as many Volkswagens as possible in weekly quests. Players could navigate the streets of South Africa, pin Volkswagens, earn badges, find bonus challenges, and win a spot in the Street Quest Grand Final. All while listening to local streaming radio stations on a custom-designed Street Quest radio. Players could share their pins with friends and submit their unusual finds to the Hall of Fame, which got even more people into the quest. We amplified the game in real life by pinning Volkswagens around South Africa. A QR code on the pin took people straight to the game on their mobile phone, so they could start playing right there. The game was an instant success, with over 90,000 pins in the first week alone, and over 400,000 pins in total. Our Facebook fans more than doubled during the campaign. Most people spent over 10 minutes playing the game, and we saw a 700% increase in engagement on the Volkswagen Facebook page. A lot of people were talking about Street Quest online. Even Google gave us a thumbs up. But the quest didn't end there. We flew the 4 winners of the weekly quest to Cape Town to compete in the grand final. But this time, it was Street Quest in real life. 4 players had 8 hours to find as many Volkswagens as possible on only 1 tank of petrol. Loyal Street Quest fans that couldn't be there watched the grand final online. And when Street Quest finally came to an end, one thing was certain. There really are a lot of Volkswagens in South Africa.
Would you go and look? Would you look for Volkswagens as part of a game?
No. But there are people that would.
Exactly. And you know, and often when we look at a lot of the new ways that we can use, there's many factors involved, and one of the big one is generational issues. And now there's generations that engage better in these things than not. And I'm not in that generation. So I look at it and then you don't necessarily understand the potential that something can have. I mean, we're seeing how people are using gaming inside organizations of where they have gaming stations where people can play these normal games and online games for employee motivation. And So we are in a completely different era of how we are integrating ideas that wasn't part of business into business, and how we get people to participate better. So the question is, can we learn from something like that and motivate a sales force, have a competition among salespeople around that, and yet use these social medias and that to drive that competition in? So we learn from it and see where we can apply it. And after, I'm going to show you 3 of these, and then we're going to talk about what type of things are you already doing in this digital space.
I think that Google Maps got some good advertising out of that too.
Yes, isn't it? No. And it's also not just understanding your own world, but understanding other technologies that are there that you can capitalize on, because that doesn't cost them anything. But did you see that they even started their own radio show in order to run something like that? So it is not that they go to small amounts of trouble. Look at this one, and it's just so creatively, it's brilliant.
Everyone knows Cape Town. It has a flat mountain, some wineries, a few seagulls, and lots of beautiful beaches. Our client, Cape Town Tourism, briefed us to come up with a digital campaign that also promotes the unexpected side of Cape Town. All the small communities that need more tourist dollars and pounds. The never heard of places that can't be found on TripAdvisor, Lonely Planet, Expedia, or even Google. We had to find a way for tourists to discover all the unexpected stuff about Cape Town without sending them there. So we thought, why not send the next best thing? Our idea? Send your Facebook profile to Cape Town. Once people had signed up to send their Facebook profile to Cape Town, they could tailor their own one-of-a-kind 5-day Cape Town holiday, receive a unique boarding pass, and just sit back and watch as their Facebook profiles arrived in Cape Town and discovered new and unexpected places for them. Each day, they received their own personalized content in their timelines. We shot over 150 POV videos. We wrote over 400 first-person authentic status updates. We photographed over 10,000 POV holiday snaps. And not only did they explore Cape Town through the eyes of their Facebook profiles, their Facebook friends did too. Some people actually thought they were really on holiday. People even received real gifts from the places their profile visited. And a few lucky winners got to experience their Facebook profile's holiday for themselves. By the end of the campaign, thousands of potential tourists had virtually explored Cape Town. But not just in your ordinary internet search engine glossy postcard kind of way. They got a personal tour that exposed them to the small communities and hidden gems, an unexpected side of Cape Town they wouldn't have found in any other way. The campaign is definitely helping. Table Mountain received its highest volume of visitors in 83 years. Tourist numbers are up by 4%, and already next year's bookings are up by 118%. But most importantly, more tourist dollars and pounds will now be spent in the places that need it most.
Remember way back, there was that very strange movie, Total Recall. It was this futurist movie, and then you can go and they would program your mind as if you were on holiday. And when I watched that, it's almost the same thing. Your profile has gone on holiday, and it seems as if you have this very exciting life, and that while you're sitting in your office with maybe your mundane job. And so quite fascinating of how this virtual world starts coming into a more real world, and people thinking that people are actually really on holiday. But just look at how creative it is to say, let's send your Facebook profile on a holiday, and it worked on that side. One last one.
In the first half of 2013, an 18-wheeler truck drove across South Africa, guided by the tweets of hopeful South Africans. Inside the truck, a new Audi A3 Sportback. Outside, a social media frenzy. The idea: Audi A3 Exchange, an opportunity for people to exchange their own car for the new Audi A3 that was inside the truck. But first, they had to use Twitter to get the truck to their city. Here's how it happened. We launched with TV, radio and online, all directing people to our microsite where they could enter and monitor the truck's progress in real time. For 3 weeks, people tweeted to get the truck to come to their city. Each tweet showed how much people would rather drive an Audi A3 Sportback than their own car. People tried everything to get the truck to their city. They made fan videos, printed their own A3 tweet cards. They even tried to bribe the truck driver. After 3 weeks, more than 50,000 tweets guided the exchange truck to its final destination, Joburg. 3 finalists were selected and put through a series of challenges, each challenge tying back to the A3 TV ad. We filmed the challenges and the winner exchanging his own BMW for the new Audi A3. The outcome. We received tens of thousands of entries, over 50,000 tweets. Audi A3 exchange was trending within a few hours of going live. We increased our Twitter following by 68%. We generated over 3 million rand of earned media, and most importantly, the interest in the A3 Sportback on the Audi website tripled, resulting in more than 100 real-life test drives per week. Each and every interaction with the campaign proved that no matter how much South Africans love their own cars, they'd happily give it up for a new Audi A3 Sportback.
And can you get better publicity than that? And somebody exchanged their BMW for an Audi. And remember, we're not allowed to do competitive advertising. That's not competitive advertising. It's just a fact. Somebody exchanged their BMW for an Audi. And who of you would engage in something like that if you can entice this truck to come to your hometown? And would you have played it?
Probably not, but it's interesting.
No?
Because I've probably not played it, but it's interesting.
It would attract your attention,
yes,
at least. So that's the first level. It's already there. So it is not something that everybody would necessarily engage in, but if your customers are in that, it was mostly people under 30 that engaged in the game and they're trying to get this Audi, and some people will obviously try once or twice and leave it, and then other people will go out full to see if they can get it. But what do? They say, I've got a car to launch in that. Who's the audience that I'm launching this to, and what would be great if we can have more what relates to my sales? Well, test drives relate to my sales. So how do I get up test drives? And then if you understand the entire business case of what you want to do, and then you step back and said, what can we do in terms of it? Imagine, but then we do, again in this case, have to have a serious understanding of how people work related to gaming. And again, not being a gamer, I always thought, like, really? But then you start looking at the gaming stuff and you see how powerful it is and how people are integrating gaming in many other things at this point in time. And about a year or two ago, we started doing seriously studies into gaming. Imagine the following. You build a game that runs on a phone, a smartphone. The game is 12 years long. A child starts playing it at age 4, 5, 6, and 12 years later they have matric. Our school system can't deliver. And so regardless of how many times we jump up and down, our school system is not delivering in. So how long are we going to not give a child a different way of getting educated if they don't have a proper teacher in their area? And so what if the one thing we know children engage in naturally is gaming? And then if you understand that correctly and you start building these things, you say, yes, but what's going to happen to the social interaction of our children? Yes, that's another disaster. We're not saying we're solving all of the problems. You're saying that you're solving some of the problems, and you may be creating some other ones as well. But it is in the absence of a proper education system. And remember, it could supplement it, because the idea was, imagine teachers become facilitators of education and not the education system. So then they facilitate a game. And so it's a very different teacher training that you would need. Now think of all the systemic changes inside the education division. Who's running that research? SAP and Vodacom, the Department of Science and Technology, and the Department of Basic Education. That's what they are looking at. So if you want to see, well, one of the things that I had a look at on gaming that I thought was really interesting is there's on a TED Talk, there's a one that's called Gaming to Save the World. And very fascinating, but it's one of the World of Warcraft designers that tells you the story of gaming. And I was blown away where they give you the stats, where they said the World of Warcraft started in 1994. And if you add up all the hours that people have played World of Warcraft by now, World of Warcraft is as old as humanity. So then I'm saying, okay, so it's not just a few people playing, is it? No. If you can make up that amount of hours in a couple of years. So it is shocking when they start giving you the figures. How there are factories in the world where people are just playing World of Warcraft and you can buy your character from them so that you can play in specific levels, so that you don't have to create your own. And I was thinking to myself, now when they told me I have to get a job, I thought I have to get a real job where I actually really work in. So these days, younger people have this option to go and sit and play World of Warcraft for the rest of their life and sell the characters they create.
I don't get too much. I mean, most of the characters being sold is like $7,000.
Oh.
It's not too much.
Okay, but we are sitting with a younger audience that have a very different idea of life in, where people are asking things like, what is my quality of life? Why must I give all my time to a corporate? There's a lot of anti-corporate sentiment. We're seeing how youngsters prefer the idea of sitting around a pool and trying to write an app and sell it for $1 million, and then to actually get a real job in a traditional sense. We are seeing quite a lot of that in the employee wellness research that we are doing, where we are working with a different mindset. At one of the companies around here the other day, I was working on a program where they identified a group of young people that they want to fast track into management in. So now you have this group of, say, 20 young people, and they're now going to go on a 10-year learning cycle in terms of putting them into senior management in. So they were heavily screened and all. But then within the first day, we're doing a motivation session to tell them what is possible and how amazing that they're selected for this program and how great it is. And then this young woman, she says to me, she says, you know, I'm not so sure of all of this. I says, yes, so what is the problem? And she says, you know, the other day, they expected me to stay to 5:30. And she's horrified. Like, and I'm like, okay, and you don't know what to say to her next. To say, okay, this is not going to work out well. I'm wondering why you're sitting on this program if that is your attitude to it. But we are seeing something different, where people are saying quality of life is as important as giving it into work. Remember, there were eras that we didn't see that at all. So we are working with a very different mentality in certain generation groups that we also have to account for. It influences our customers, it influences our employees, it influences our intermediaries and our suppliers. So if you have the right type of sales force, some way that you want to influence, then gaming can work as one of your strategies to say, how do we compile a game that through the game people really learn what we do in, and we are able to push sales in it, and that person is able to win things or whatever it can be. So it depends on the mindset of the person that we are working with. But have a look at that, say, Gaming to Save the World, and where her argument is that we have created a world where it's very difficult for people to win. And in gaming you can win. Games, good games, give people many opportunities of winning. It breaks it down into opportunities of winning. So in the World of Warcraft, you can win by accumulating resources. You can win by actual combat. You can win by a stock that you accumulate of something that you can sell again. You can win by trade. You can win by positioning. There's many things that you can. You can design your own maps. You can do many things that you can feel a sense of accomplishment. And that is that sense of winning that draws people in.
You can feel the sense of accomplishment, but you can't win. The whole proposition about an MMORPG is like Warcraft, is that people just continue playing.
But it's a feeling of winning. It's a sense of that.
Yes. Not winning.
Accomplishment, but not winning.
Yes, you can't win.
Okay.
I suspect you're talking to two people who've played World of Warcraft for a long time.
Accomplishment.
And I'm kind of getting the impression that maybe you haven't played the World of Warcraft.
I've never.
Yes.
I've never.
That's what I kind of got.
Yes.
I didn't know Leon was a Warcraft.
But that's why I started off saying that it is not a world that is my world in. So therefore, when we look at strategy,
you'd be flippant surprised. You can create your virtual world.
Yeah.
It's not that it's not your world. It is
No,
your
no,
world,
no,
trust
no.
me.
No, I don't mean
When
it
you're
that
there, it's
way.
your world.
I mean, when I'm sitting and I'm writing business strategies and I'm writing ideas for marketing, that's not necessarily part of my frame of reference. So I don't necessarily think that I can use the learnings of how those worlds work inside marketing. And then when you start learning things about those worlds, then you see that, oh my word, there's actually quite a lot of potential that we can use it in many different ways in. And that is what is quite problematic for us at this point in time. Remember, traditional marketing was easy compared to this because you used print, you used radio, you used TV and all. And suddenly now, look at what we can use. But if I am not a person that have engaged with those things before, I may not actually think it's an option. And so gaming has become quite of the one of the very nice things that we are seeing coming out in business.
I found Stereo seems to be using it quite a bit now, even with this, when they launched this S5, and now they've got this thing where you've got to find the stores and all the rest of it, and then you've got to download the app, and so they're obviously utilising all the technology out there.
Yes,
and then
on the virtual worlds, World of Warcraft, I'm not sure, I haven't played it in a while, but on other
Which is
virtual
why we're still in jobs.
other virtual worlds that I've played is that what they're doing is in like where you walk and you have like you blow stuff up and all that, you walk through buildings. They would have billboards of actual products on the billboards in the actual place where you walk through.
Yes.
So you walk through this and you've got these Coca-Cola ads playing YouTube videos. It looks like YouTube videos that they play of Coca-Cola ads. And in some places where you shoot them down or you do something to it, they actually go to an extra website if you want it. And it opens a website and you can actually do something with it. But you've got these billboards in the actual virtual world where you can see the ads.
Yeah. Now, whom of you are not gamers? You don't engage in these? Okay. Did you know that? And that is our issue at this point in time, as we're seeing this different world. But if we've not been there, we don't even remotely understand the opportunities that you can get out of it. I mean, last year when we started studying the idea of gaming for children and using it as part of education, I was amazed. They say that, but you could use it for this as well, and that as well, and that as well, and people are using it.
But the only thing with the children, you say 12 years, you do a gaming app and you go 12 years and you drink. That's the only flaw in it.
It wouldn't have to be 12 years.
No, but that's the thing.
Yes.
If you sell a game that you have to play for 12 years, nobody would buy it. But if you sell a game and say, if you reach this level, and if you reach that level, and for a child to reach that level, if he can do it in 6 months.
You know, you are right, and it's exactly how it works. It's exactly how it works. It's not necessarily 12 years. But what happens now for us is we are working with a couple of things. Point one, there's a school system that says it must be 12 years. As soon as you start tampering with those, like say, holy grail rules, potentially your entire concept gets thrown away. So it's ridiculous, and we can't have people that.
I mean, the 12 years is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, but they don't think of it like that now. So if you can introduce it within the way people think, and then you can start manipulating it from there on. But you can't throw out everything immediately. Our other problem is if you put it out to say that the Department of Education is investing in a game that will take children through school, what do you think the teachers' union is going to do? Strike. So the entire thing is positioned as teachers as facilitators of games.
You can leave them as facilitators. You just do that in the game.
You could, but we have to protect the system as well. If the entire country goes on a strike now, we have not done children any favor. And so therefore you build the system that slightly reflects the current realities. In time, it will change itself. In time it'll change itself. So you have to ask yourself, how can I use the innovation but still make people feel comfortable? In terms of it, the innovation itself causes the change in time. But if you position it too strongly, you are too soon, it gets rejected in the markets. You have to, it's that idea of give ideas to people in bite sizes that they can digest in. No, but just the idea of we're going to give people, children a game to play to get through school. It's got massively negative reaction. It says, but it's wrong. Why would you do that? It says, well, How are we going to train enough teachers to get to the children? This is not a replacement of school. It is just to say, in the cases where the system fails, there must be an alternative in. So you're still positioned within what it is. And in businesses, it's also important to take that into account. We can come with really weird and wonderful ideas that can be very, very good, but it doesn't have roots in that specific business. Often very innovative things get rejected in the beginning, where if we can show people that it's kind of like where you are now and it's moving you one step closer, then you step people into a different world. And that level is usually easier for people to take in. The same for customers. Not to take them from here to there in a smack, but to take them from here to here on a journey. And that they are learning certain things. They don't necessarily always know where you want to take them, but if you announce this immediately, often that your level of rejection can be much, much higher. Yeah. Okay, let's take a break. It is now almost 10 past. Let's start again at 1/2 past.